The Seminole Headlines 93.3 Real Talk Radio Warchant TV is underway. Celebrate. There's Ira. There's Corey. I'm Jeff. Thanks for being here. And thanks always to our friends at Register Sausage. Yay, sausage!
Did you see Ben? I'm still confused about what's happened here with Ben Kemper. He's gone off the rails. He won't text me back. I brought this up over a month ago. I texted him around Christmas, wished him happy holidays, and then he goes on Twitter and basically has a poll to ask people whether or not he should respond to my text from the Register Sausage account, and the people voted for him to not respond to my text. Yeah. So I'm still sitting on red, and I haven't heard from Ben. I don't know. I'm a little curious about our relationship at this point. The checks are still coming though, right?
That's all that matters, right?
Yeah, we should be getting one any day now. So I'll let you know. I can't have your fractured relationship with Ben affect Corey and I.
Right. And it won't.
And it also shouldn't affect your love of the sausage. The Register Sausage is still great. I'm not holding a vendetta against the Register Sausage. I'll still go get some jalapeno cheddar or some andouille.
Yeah.
In fact, this is the time of year, man, for the andouille, because you need a little spice in your life. You need a little flavor. If you make the jambalaya like Kim does, and if you go to registermeats.com, you can have it delivered anywhere in the country. Just don't try to text Ben, because my guy will not respond. It's just not going to happen. Or if your local grocery stores, you can bypass him completely. Go to your local grocery stores, North Florida, over to Georgia and Alabama, up into the Carolinas now, down towards Tampa. It's a takeover. You just can't get Ben to text you back.
Boys, it happened. Listen, we were waiting on it to happen, and then it finally did. Obviously, yesterday, Florida State announces that Leonard Hamilton will resign at the season's end, and I, for one, kind of felt a sense of relief. Not because – I mean, listen, I hate the endings of these things, especially if I really like the individual, and I really like Leonard Hamilton. But I think all three of us agreed it was more than time. And the fact that you hear an announcement of a resignation followed by this idea that he would be willing to help in the transition at least suggests to me that even if he didn't like it, he's not bitter about what's happening, or else he wouldn't be a part of that. You wouldn't say that you're going to be helpful in the transition, I don't think.
I mean, it could definitely be a whole lot worse. I mean, I think it was worse with Coach Bowden.
Way worse.
Way
worse.
I think it was worse with Coach Martin.
I do too.
Especially when then they fired his son 2 years later, 2.5 years later. But yeah, no, it was going to happen at some point. The odds of it being a fairy tale ending were pretty slim, because I think, Corey, you might have said in your column, or it might have been one of the responses to your column, which I thought was a good column, but I thought it was a good response. And the person was like, look, man, even if they had that great tournament year and ended on a higher note, then he would have wanted another year. And that's the challenge with these things, is you don't really ever get that happy resolution walking off into the sunset after hoisting a trophy. So, by the way, real quick, Jeff, not to do your job, but I'm going to remind everybody that this is recorded. We're recording in the morning again, and this is not a live. So if you're chatting at us, we can't see it.
Yeah, and by the way, guys, if you ever see the three of us like this, it's pretty much guaranteed It's a record. So get it together and learn your lessons from previous recorded shows. But yes, there's that. You're right.
It's a good tell.
And I would also say that it's going to be recorded again next week. This has to do with player interviews, the newcomers that are coming in that happen to be smack dab in the middle of when we would be doing headlines. And these two gentlemen need to be able to conduct those interviews. So that's why. But you'll get the full 2 hours. We'll do headliner questions next hour. Also, the bonus hour will be available to you as soon as headline ends. I will do that on my lonesome. So you'll get that as well.
Anyhow, like they should flip the interviews and have because on Thursdays they're at 11 a.m. and Tuesdays they're at 2 p.m. They should flip them for us. I don't know why it's ridiculous. Can we call Derek or Norvell and see?
I was going to say they actually based it on their class schedules and meeting schedules, and not based on Seminole Headlines live broadcast schedule. But we could bring that up.
Bring it up.
When you're over there today, can you shoot a glare? Just shoot a glare over Derek's way, or whomever you think is responsible for this travesty. Just shoot a glare over there like, hey, man. And then they'll know. They know what that glare is. They understand that they disrupted the live headline schedule.
Maybe maybe when I ask my first question, because it'll be around 2:00 or after 2:00, I'll be like, actually, right now I should be talking about Dr. Birch.
Yeah.
Birch Orthodontics. I could do the promo then as I'm asking my question. What do you think?
That's what I was going to say. Yeah, because you're going to introduce yourself to the kid, you like you did last week. Irish O'Fell, Warchant.com, sponsored by Birch Orthodontics. Jamie, got a quick question for you. Birch Orthodontics, best place in town. Yeah, I think with these things never end well. Honestly, they almost never end well. And so it's Krzyzewski had a good ending, great, although he did lose to North Carolina twice in his final 3 weeks of his season.
Like I said, it's a great ending.
Yeah, but right, yeah, correct. But man, the fact I just like the fact that he's willing to accept it, and I don't know how much push there was. Like, did they make him accept it? Was he amicable immediately? How much back and forth was there? But again, with no years on your contract, there was nothing left to do. It's not like you could say, let's sit down and talk about a contract extension. We knew that wasn't coming because this team isn't good enough, and it hasn't been good enough. So, and he's 76, and there was no years left on his contract. He'd been here 23 years. So, I would love for this team to be better. I would love for him to go out on a higher note than what apparently is happening with this team. But either way, I like that it won't be ugly. It won't be ugly, which is nice.
Yeah, I think the hard conversations were really held probably a year ago, or before, back in the summer or back in the spring of last year, when I'm sure Leonard Hamilton said, "Hey guys, it would be good for recruiting if I had a couple more years on my contract," and they basically said, "No, we're not doing that." And at that point, as a head coach, you have an option: try to find another job or deal with it. And I think Leonard Hamilton decided to deal with it, maybe hoping that he would have success and stay on longer. But so that part of it, Leonard Hamilton knew the situation. And once this season went off the rails, I don't think it was a shock when they asked him, "Hey, listen, it would be good if we put the word out right now," because not only would it calm the fans down, but it also would help us. It gives us a month head start in the coaching search, and it also will get us in position for when the portal opens up.
And I think that most of us look at this reflectively and we think what could have been in 2020. And you just think about the run that he should have been afforded the opportunity to have with his best team that was absolutely loaded and experienced, because they had been knocking on the door. And that was a team that we all feel like had a real good chance to make the Final Four. Who knows, could have maybe won the national championship and didn't get that opportunity. I am very thankful in retrospect, though, that they did choose to celebrate that season and that he did get an opportunity to get acknowledged. Yeah. It just stinks. I mean, there's nothing, what are you going to do? There's nothing you can do about what happened there. I mean, pandemic, but it stinks that team that brought so much joy to Tallahassee. Tom and I were reflecting on it. All three of us got to live through that and experience that and cover that and be a part of that. That place was the most electric it's ever been. You think about the dunk on Wara and the way that building came unhinged, the way that it transformed the perception of what it meant to play basketball as a road team in Tallahassee. Yeah. I mean, you had national pundits describing Tallahassee as one of the more difficult places to play on the road. You won over people like Jay Billis, who would have scoffed at the mere thought of that a few years prior. So that was cool to see it, that we got that. And he's responsible for that. He deserves credit for that, as well as the greatest run in Florida State history. So I hope that he's recognized as such in that final game, Corey, against SMU, as you wrote in your column. And I hope there is a moment like that. I don't know how much he wants that, but I hope there is something like that.
Can I say something too? And I don't know why I want to qualify this, but I do. The way we talk about Leonard, I think we can. I'll speak for all three of us. We know he's not Bobby Bowden. We know he did not have the career of Bobby Bowden. He's not on par with Bobby Bowden or Mike Martin. He is not one of the best to ever do it.
Correct.
In college basketball, he is a good coach. He wasn't great like those two guys necessarily, or let's just say his tenure wasn't great like those two guys were. But he was good consistently for 2.5 decades at a place that has never, other than a few pockets, ever really cared or been good at college basketball. And there was some pushback about, like, man, I do think they should name the court after the guy. I do think they should at least put his name up in the rafters, like do something to honor the man, because he has been honorable. And and it's not like we're just saying he's a good dude and he wants his kids to graduate. So he had his kids graduate. So let's celebrate him. No, he's also a good coach for a long time in a hard place to play, a hard place to win. We're not saying he's the best that's ever done it. We're not overinflating how good he was, but he was darn good. And it was a really good tenure with some really high highs. And honestly, other than a couple years ago, no real awful lows.
Yeah, I think the court naming idea and that all, I think 3 years ago or 4 years ago, I feel like it was almost a no-brainer. These last few years have really tarnished, what his tenure was. And, and I also think, the challenge for evaluating his tenure also is, so much of it, especially when you look big picture, is based on those tournament appearances. And they had a couple of years in those 2000s that they should have been in. The idea that the classic, juxtaposition is the fact that FSU football got kept out because Jordan Travis was hurt. But Tony Douglas comes back from his 6-game absence. They look great again. They were great before that. He comes back from his broken hand, but the committee didn't care about that. I know it's a different committee, different sport. I'm just saying, the idea, they kind of had some really bad luck in a couple of years. And then, overall at the big picture, you look at the players that he's brought in over this time and that period of time. Like Jeff said, listen, I think the students still pretty much come to games at FSU because of that era that ended after Scotty Barnes left. Because remember, man, I don't know, the student, the first 6 or 7 years, man, they had a hard time getting students. That Noles zone was very weak.
Red zone, Ira, get it right.
Well, it was red zone, then it became the Noles zone. Yeah. But that was not. It was just they would have to, like, the way they got kids to come was you had to come to sign in, to say that you came, so you got points for your football tickets. Well, now, man, even now the students still come, and I really think it's because when they got here, the students were coming because you had the show that they had on during that stretch where they were really, really good.
Yeah, man. Corey, I get what you're saying there as far as we recognize, because I do think people hear the way we laud Hamilton and might infer that we think he's legendary, amongst the best to ever do it. But I think it is relative, because at Florida State, he is the winningest coach in Florida State history, but he's also the 5th winningest coach in ACC history.
Yeah.
And it's not like he didn't have success at Miami as well. I mean, he's been a good coach, period.
Yeah.
He had a year at Miami when they were in the Big East, and they went undefeated on the road when there were 6 teams in the top 20. That's insane.
Yeah.
So, look, he had success. And I do think we would look at him differently had they gone on that Final Four run, which they had a real good chance to do. They were going to be, and you guys can weigh in on this, they were going to be a 2 seed regionally, right? And they were going to be able to play in Florida.
If they won the ACC, man, they might have been. If they won the ACC tournament, I think they had a chance of being a 1 seed.
Yeah, they were like ranked 6th at the time. Yeah. They were 6th in the country. Yeah,
they were unreal, and they had length, and they had depth, and they could score, and they did. And they had experience. So I do think they were set up. I don't think people push back on that all the time. Well, you don't know. He had never done it before. Why do you think he would have done it? Because that was his best damn team. They were loaded. That's why.
And just a couple of years before, they went to Elite Eight and could have gone to the Final Four. I mean, I think
they went to the Sweet 16 3 years in a row, right. And that was the one team that 3 out of 4. The one time they didn't was that year. I mean, they were used to go to the Sweet 16. Now, look, man, it's basketball.
You can lose a game.
You can lose. Sure. You can lose in the first or second round, but he had his best chance with that season. It's still, it wouldn't make this. It would be nice that if he had another Elite Eight or a Final Four banner hanging up there. We'd still be having this conversation right now, right? After these last 4 years,
absolutely, yeah.
And if things, I think, to me, people will make a big deal about the age. He's 76 years old. I think coaches have coached that long before. Really, to me, the 2 things that have kind of caused this downturn over the last 4 or 5 years is, obviously, I personally think CY leaving Charlton Young, who was their top recruiter, was a huge loss. I think they probably, in hindsight, should have fought harder to keep him. He went to Missouri to join Dennis Gates, mostly because he got to be the number 2 coach there, the top assistant. Plus, he got to make more money. But I think Florida State could have easily kept him at Florida State, and if they had, I don't know, man, they still may be still going. The combination of losing CY as your top recruiter and then also the NIL world changing, Leonard Hamilton at 76 with the staff he had just wasn't capable of accounting for that. But look, man, Gates and CY have done it. They I think last year they had the number 5 class in the country, brought in a bunch of transfers, and I know that an SEC school has more money, whatever. I'm telling you, it can be done. It could be done at Florida State, but they weren't equipped to handle that after, he and Gates had left a few years earlier, and then after CY left.
I never felt like they gave Hamilton much guidance in this new era of college basketball either. I don't feel like there was a ton of support. We can,
because it's Florida State basketball. I mean, what happened with think about the Battle's End. The Battle's End was organic. It was, I think, I do think there were conversations. I think Mike Norvell and the administration realized after that first year that, okay, the NIL is not exactly what we thought it was going to be, guys. It's not all going to be marketing deals. And so then but a huge part of what the Battle's End money is just grassroots marketing that Ingram and those guys have done. But you couldn't do that for basketball here. You just can't.
You could always just tell guys you're going to pay them.
Good.
Man.
Hey,
it's current. People are thinking it. We're talking about NIL, and the guy's got a lawsuit hanging over his head. I do hope
that has nothing at all to do with it.
With what?
Him leaving? Because I'm talking
about. Yeah. We were just talking about the NIL and the effect of Leonard Hamilton, and there is a lawsuit that everybody knows about is in the air right now. That's all. That's all I was saying.
Yeah, I do think whoever comes in next, though, that's something to forward looking ahead. They're going to have some means by which to pay players. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
You're going to have. That's the only way you can be competitive.
Yeah, but that's on that guy. That's on that. That has to be part of the plan. If they hire somebody because you are a great coach, but you don't have a strong plan for how you're going to handle that, and you got to be bringing people with you. You can't, in terms of not just players, but also people who are going to support you, because you can't. Listen, man, they have some seats on the baseline or on the sideline. They've got some donors. There are people that donate money to this program and have money, and it can happen. For years we talked about the University of Miami didn't have money. They had all this, antiquated equipment. They had no money for their facilities and all that. They all went in when they got Mario Cristobal. So if you can get a coach to get that buy-in, there's money to get there. Plus you can bring your own, but that has to be, if not the first question, it's got to be one of the first 2 questions they're asking these candidates.
Yeah, it's the number 1 question, because Lord knows the university ain't going to do it. So yes, let's go find somebody who's got it. And that's where I think the 3 of us have talked about it. I think all of us, for once, kind of feel like, they may need a Florida State guy.
Yeah.
To engender that sort of, and also understand the landscape.
Yeah. Otherwise, yes, correct. The person, if it's a former player or a former coach, they care about this place. They care about Leonard Hamilton, and they want to keep his legacy, however you view his legacy to be. They want to keep that going and honor it. And also, they would know this place. It's not a normal place. It's not just an ACC school. You share the building with the circus. You share the building with the Harlem Globetrotters and concerts. Like, there's all these things you have to deal with that most ACC schools don't. And there's some challenges that come with that. But so hopefully they're clear-eyed. They'd be open-eyed about what they're doing. And guys, maybe they could move the students to
but hold your horses, Corey.
Maybe that could be part of the reason, in their contract, that the students get moved to seats that matter.
Let's demand it.
Yeah, I would demand it.
Yeah, I would demand it. I think it's a good idea. Seminole Headlines, 93.3 Real Talk Radio. Warchant TV continues in a moment. One of you 2 boys rolling over to Orlando for the Mike Norvell speaking tour this weekend? Anybody?
That'll be our guy Matt Lasser will be down in Orlando.
There we go. Nice. Good work, Matt.
Yeah. And then I'm heading over to Pensacola a few nights later, a couple nights later at least. Unless one of you guys wants to join me, then we can make it a roadie.
Hang out.
You guys think about it. You can get back to
me. Yeah, we'll get back to you.
Okay.
Yeah. We do know the mayor We have a relationship with the mayor. We could probably get a nice place to stay.
We do real quick. Well, I'm sorry, real quick, Jeff, and get to wherever you're going to take us. But capping off the last hour, and somebody had just sent me this text while we were recording the first hour.
And they're not watching it live, by the way.
No, exactly. Yeah. They're just a big FSU fan. He just sent me a link to the 2020 roster for FSU men's basketball. Just a real reminder for people about who that team was. So Devin Vassell, heard of him? Mm-hmm. Pretty good player. I think he's averaging like 15 a game in the NBA.
More than
that. Trent Forrest, who maybe is the best point guard, maybe one of the top 2 or 3 point guards in school history. MJ Walker, 5-star recruit, pretty nice college shooting guard. Patrick Williams, another first-round pick.
Still in the league.
Yep. Raekwon Gray. You had the Dominic Olenechek kid, the transfer, the big kid who was actually, I think he was a big part of that team. Raekwon Evans, who's had a cup of coffee in the league. You also had Balsa Koprivica and Raekwon Evans and Nathaniel Jack, and it was just that was an awesome team. It was just it's hard to again.
You didn't even say Malik Osborne.
Malik Osborne, and Anthony Polite.
Yes,
as well.
Yeah, you keep going.
Yeah, that was man.
No, man, I'm telling you, you had MJ Walker and Polite were knockdown shooters. They were very good shooters. So was Vassell and Patrick Williams.
And awesome
three-point shooting. You had really good defensive guys. You had 7-footers that could move. You had a point guard that could take over late in games and get buckets. Like it was a perfect team to make a run in the NCAA tournament. But there's been a lot of those that didn't. It was just he'd never had, and they were very good free throw shooters. Oh, that's really fun to have late in the game too. Like they were perfectly
balanced,
perfectly balanced to be a legitimate Final Four candidate.
Yeah, I think when you go back to like the team that lost to Cincinnati.
I'm still pissed about that game. They're fouling asses on every possession.
But it was the worst possible matchup for them. They as talented as FSU was, their guards did not like teams to play. They did not play well.
They were soft. I would just say it. They
didn't play through the physicality very well, especially if the officials weren't helping them. The officials that day had no interest in helping them at all.
Hey, I'll say this: one of those guards might end up having a real chance to be the next coach here. Let's not call him too soft, Jeff.
Well,
come on now.
He knows I think he's soft.
Let's hope not.
He knows. But, yeah, man, they were slapping wrists and arms.
No, it was ridiculous.
It was every possession.
Yeah.
I
was talking about that the other night with someone about the SEC now and how physical the SEC is. Like that Tennessee-Auburn game from a week ago that was unwatchable. It's like 38-37 with 5 minutes left. That when you get in the tournament, your whole season is dictated on what kind of officiating crew you get. Are they going to let you play like you're used to playing? Or are you going to have 7 fouls 10 minutes to go in the first half? Like basketball is the sport that I think is affected most, not just by the officiating itself, but what kind of crew you get.
Well, it can be.
Not all fouls are fouls in basketball.
Right. It can be, but again, that was the point about that team is I feel like they could have overcome, they could play different styles. Most college basketball teams, you're right. They kind of need the game to be somewhat officiated the way they want it to be officiated. But that team, I think, could have handled probably anything you threw at them. Other than that, just outright cheating.
No, I'm still mad. I still get mad about that. You're not mad at any one person for that situation. Whereas I remember being kind of mad at Leonard. Like the fan in me was mad at Leonard when we lost to Wisconsin.
Yeah.
Come on, man. That was ridiculous.
That was a bad Wisconsin team, too. That was a mediocre Wisconsin team.
That should have never happened. I'm still mad about that one, though. So there was the good and the bad and everything else. But, man. For sure. Yeah, there was no doubt. Now, the reason I brought up the booster thing in Orlando and you going to Pensacola, it dawned on me the other day when I was thinking about him going on the booster tour and, beginning here in early February, like, man, what's the message from Mike? Like, what? That's going to be an interesting role for him. I mean, he's got to be out there putting on a brave face and convincing people to get excited about Florida State football fresh off a 2-10 season. I know there have been a lot of changes, and that's what he's going to harp on, as he should, because you don't want to go down memory lane. But, man, I got to imagine there's some people in that audience like, all right, man, tell me why I should trust you again.
I think it'll be hard. I think it'll be twofold. It'll be what does the turnout look like? That'll be something that tells us something because he has gotten good turnouts in the past, certainly the last couple of years. And then the other thing is, what kind of questions does he get, and then how does he handle it? Because I think his human nature, and we saw it during the season, was he wants to take accountability and he wants to apologize and he wants to let you know. But that in front of a room of people, you could start feeling like you're swimming pretty quickly. So I think it's gonna be a challenge for him. I think it's a good point.
There'll be some pointed questions, like what happened. That's a good one. Like, can you take us through why your team was so bad this year? That would be a funny question to ask. But it'll also look, man. He knows it's coming. You don't go 2-10 at a place like Florida State. Keep your job and then go on a speaking tour. But also maybe the Q&As are held to like 5 minutes. Maybe they have plants like they did for Jimbo at the end.
I think the way it's kind of gone over the last few years, it's gone more to a host, Jeff Culhane or Tom Block or somebody kind of moderating. So they may take some questions from the audience, but I think it'll go through a little bit of a screening. I don't know if they're going to give the mic out in the audience. Like
I was going to say, you probably write down your question on a note card and then they see if they answer.
I think a couple of things would also be smart here, and that is because listen, he's going to get the pointed questions when they go to the ACC kickoff when we're all up there in Charlotte together. And think about the Radio Row love he's going to have there. That's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
They're all going to be like, hey, man, what in the hell? I mean, they're not obligated to be nice. They're going to ask the tough questions. I would think he'd want to answer that. I think it would be wise to answer it, to not dodge and deflect, not dwell either. But I do think he'd be wise to – you can't get people to re-engage and reinvest and believe and part with their money again if you don't at least acknowledge and have a viable answer for what happened and why things are going to be different under your guidance yet again.
But you're gonna want to address it pretty quickly and move to the positive. To the positive. I
don't want to sit there and spend an hour on why we sucked last year. I agree with you. No, don't do that, and don't be overly apologetic either. Right. It's a fine effing line, but I do think he's got to. I mean, come on, man. They went 2-10. He's got to account for how the hell that could have happened and why it's not ever going to happen again.
Yeah, look forward. Just look forward, right, guys?
He could sit there and tell Adam Fuller and Alex Atkins stories. Guys, you wouldn't. I mean, I don't know. Those guys, I couldn't rein them in. That's why I had to fire them. They were.
It wasn't my fault, gang. Exactly. I was calling all the same plays.
You tell everybody that listen, behind the scenes, you don't know what I was putting up with, but that's gone. That's changed now. I think we've made some positive changes, if you know what I'm saying. And
he might be. I don't know if. Might be wise to bring Gus onto some of these because and again, I think the fact that Gus is, man, when you coached at Auburn for as long as he did in Nick Saban's shadow, he's faced some tough questions from fans. So maybe bring him out for the new car smell a little bit. I know there's mixed reactions about him, but maybe that would give you a little bit of juice on some of these stops.
I'd bring Tony White out too. I'd bring him. I'd have them both come. To at least a few of them. Yeah, but I mean, look, at the end of the day, it's just words. We would tour. Do we know when spring practice starts?
I mean, it'll be in mid-March at some point. I'm not sure the exact date yet.
I know it's not the first week of March, buddy, because I had to inquire about that and was told I can't tell you when it is, but you're okay that first week.
Yeah. I think it'll be in mid-March, I think. But yeah, right now they're still doing the tour duty and all that stuff. But I guess to Jeff's point is, it is just words. We get it. But part of, not everybody has renewed their season tickets yet. Not everybody has bought everything they're going to do, to support the team next year. So, that's why they do these events, is to raise money. So it's on him to figure out a message and how to deliver it.
Yeah. And that's really why I was asking guys, is I just think it's a difficult balance to strike. He's got to answer those questions. You cannot dodge that. And he hasn't been a guy who wants to dodge it, but you also can't wallow in self-pity and doubt and anger. So you got to move forward as well. So to Corey's point, you got to look forward, but you can't do it while just deflecting and not acknowledging what just happened. It's weird. it's a weird position to be in, born out of going 2-10. I mean, that's your fault. That's the position you find yourself in. But yeah, I would definitely bring those two gentlemen, and I would really bring Tony White a lot because that dude's good in a room. Right. He's compelling. Yeah. I want to listen to him talk. I enjoy it. He seems to have an idea of where he's headed and what's going to. Yeah, I would bring him a lot. And yeah, if Gus wants to come along, good. Let's do that too. But and also that's a way of moving forward and looking forward is to introduce the two guys that you're going to go down that path with and that you're, walking away from. So it's just, that's tough, man. I've thought a lot about that. And I've thought about the ACC kickoff. I've thought, man, that's not going to be fun because he's going to have to do it room to room, station to station.
Yeah, but it's North Carolina stations, man, and it ain't that many, and they don't care that much about football.
But they care enough they hate Florida State, Corey. They're going to ask that question.
Sure, but they also I would imagine most of those people will be polite. They just aren't going to be pointed.
Yeah, they'll be professional, I would hope.
I think the more pointed questions would come from us, quite frankly. I don't know that they'll be like, what went wrong? But it's not. You look at Radio Row, man. We're not in the SEC. That's not much of a Radio Row.
Well, I don't know. I do. I hear what you're saying, but I also think there are some people who feel like they might be able to make Florida State's head football coach squirm by bringing up how awful they were. I could see that. I mean, I could see that.
They resent Florida State, and a lot of them take it personal that we want out, and they believe that the conference has been damaged by the lawsuit.
Hey, man, then don't do it. What does he gain from being on the Raleigh radio station anyway? Yeah. What does he gain from it? Come see us play in a couple months. There's no point to it. Go do your press conference. That weird thing they do your hour there, and then get out if we're worried about it. Don't let them make fun of you, Mike. You don't deserve that.
That's reserved for us.
Yeah, we'll make fun of you all we want, but we know you.
Corey, he does deserve that.
Yeah, he doesn't deserve it from somebody that covers Duke football. You don't. Sorry, man. Yeah, Florida State sucked last year. Great. What if any of the schools y'all cover in your 200-mile radius ever done in the sport that matters? Nothing. You hired Bill Belichick. Awesome. North Carolina's done jack squat for 40 years. I don't make fun of them. Great. You matter not at all to the sport.
You and I are talking to those individuals in this setting, yes, but a head coach will not be afforded that opportunity. And he will have to, he doesn't
have to talk to the Herb FM and W27 out of Raleigh, Durham.
Herb FM takes strays every show we do.
Sorry, Herb FM. I'm just kidding. Just my bad. That's my fault.
Guys out there just trying to make a buck, just trying to get their voice out there. But yeah, man, there are some markets he's definitely going to want to be in. He's always going to want to do the Miami stations because of recruiting. Although, it's a little antiquated. I don't know how many high school recruits listen to AM radio these days, but I do think, he does Atlanta and Miami and probably Charlotte and those stations. He will want to be on in those markets if he can, and handle himself well. And the other thing is, if you handle yourself poorly, it doesn't matter what station you're on because it can go viral. Once somebody tweets that clip, you can look really silly.
What'd you say to me? What'd you say to me? Yeah, one of those things. That's a clown question, bro. And then back to Mike.
There's a part of me that would love that.
Would be awesome.
It would be hilarious. Mike's like, okay, I've had about enough. That's one too many questions about the past. I've answered it already. Let's move.
Are we doing this? Are we doing this? Are you man enough to stand up right now? Are we going to do this?
Could there be a moment that gets testy, like when Ira was talking to Paul?
Oh, Paul Johnson.
Yeah, what's a pro-style offense? An offense they run in the pros, not this 1950s crap, black and white TV crap.
Not this wing team nonsense you're out here running. Were you furious in the moment trying to hold on?
He laughed. You laughed because he's Paul Johnson.
I did laugh because it was so moronic.
He's so cantankerous all the time about every question. He just wants to challenge every question.
And it was just such a – again, it's like, dude, we see the offense you run. I don't know. And I'm not arguing. I'm not arguing it's a bad offense. And if I was at Georgia Tech, it might be what I would want to run. I'm not mad at Navy for running or Army for running what they run. But to act like it's a pro offense, what in the world are you talking about?
He just wanted to fight with you.
No, it was something like
so
that.
Defensive.
It was something about you asked about Ponder.
I said Ponder. I feel is he athletic enough that he could be an effective quarterback in your offense? trying to get him to talk about Ponder's athleticism.
Yeah.
And he was like, what's my offense? What's my offense? I said, well,
not a pro-style offense.
Not a pro-style offense. Well, it's a pro-style offense.
Oh, here we go.
The ones they play in the NFL? I don't know.
Yeah, that's freaking hilarious. Like, you should have been like, here we go.
Here we go with this guy again.
Here we go.
Always angry.
Seminole Headlines, 93.3 Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV continues. That point in the show where we can hold a beer aloft. Not literally.
Well, or maybe literally.
Oh, look at my man.
Literally
prepared.
I mean, it's not open,
You
guys.
drink
it's
it?
open.
Oh, okay.
It's not open. It's not open, but
he will drink it.
Yeah.
Not today.
The morning ride is the coffee blonde, which is one of our favorites over there at Tavello.
It is delicious, Ira. I may swing by your house later. You can give me one of those beers. I have been left out in the cold. I finished my stash at Tavello, 2.5 weeks ago. I got nothing over here. I'm dry. It's dry as the Sahara over here.
Come on over, man. We got to re-up. I can re-up for you. And I was getting some grief the other day. First of all, a couple things real quick. Tavello Brewing Company, up in Thomasville, Georgia, just up the road from Tallahassee. A variety of craft brews that you'll like. There are several that are delicious that I haven't tried them all. Somebody was giving me a little grief because I said I wouldn't do the stout, Jeff.
And I made fun
I don't know
of
if you
you
want
for it too.
I just don't. I don't get it. What
man. Hey, don't apologize, Ira. People like what they like. Don't let him bully you about your beer choices.
I try to broaden my dear friend's horizons.
Yeah, but if you don't like it, you don't like it. Like, I don't like caviar. I've had caviar. I don't like it.
Corey, he doesn't know he doesn't like it.
That's true.
He's a scared child.
No fairness, I've never tried.
That is fair. That's fair, Jeff. I agree. His palate is the palate of a 5-year-old. It's crazy he's ever had a drop of alcohol.
The other real quick, I was on campus the other day, and a guy who works at FSU ran into a couple of FSU fans who are really nice guys that work at FSU. One of them tells me, "Hey, by the way, I heard you talking about how the people at Tavello were waiting. Somebody at Tavello was waiting for Jeff because I want you to know I like you, Ira."
There it is.
I appreciate that, man.
That's
He
good.
put his arm around me.
That's nice.
The other guy with him, and I can't remember their names. I'm not even sure if they gave me their names. The other guy said, he goes, and I'm a Miami fan. And he goes, like, back when my Florida State was killing Miami every year and 7-year streak, he goes, I wonder if you remember this. He said he was in a Publix and you were in line and he had his Miami hat on. And he said, you went over, Jeff, and pat him on the back and was like, man, tough times or something like that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
He said he's been trying to find you for the last few years and hasn't.
That's what happens.
Failed to find you. But anyway, go up to Tavello, just up into Thomasville, Georgia, right there when you get to downtown. There's a lot of shops in Thomasville. There's restaurants. There's other things you can do. And go sit down and have the variety of delicious craft beers at Tavello.
Have the stout. Get up to that stout. Ira's going to do it at some point. We're going to go up there together and we'll have the stout.
Still riding with the morning ride.
It's really good. Hey, Corey, when you drive back down from Atlanta, how often you can cut right through there? You've got your chance.
Yeah,
Corey drives at night.
I do. I drive at night, and I usually do the truck route around Thomasville and then come out the other side.
Yeah.
But
maybe
now I could do that. You're right. I probably should. It's just I'm going to be on the road. It's not. I'm not
telling you to drink it right then. I'm saying
just
pick it up and bring it to the house.
Right.
You also
I do that a lot.
You also could pick up some and then just play like east. No. Get the beer.
Oh, eastbound and down.
Play eastbound and down as you're driving, and just imagine that you're in the Trans Am.
That's a Smoking the Bandit reference for our younger listeners.
Well, they hear it at the stadium on Saturday.
Well, that's true. You've been in the fourth quarter. If you're wondering what that's about,
in
the fourth quarter, there's a guy named Burt Reynolds that was a big deal here. Always going to be a big deal here. That starred in some very popular movies in the late 70s, early 80s.
Boys, with the way the weather has been the last 2 days, I am so geared up for Florida State baseball. I think they're going to be good. I don't know how good. We've already had this discussion. I'm not trying to bring that up for a long-form discussion, but like this weather reminds you that it's nice to be in Florida in February and to sit at Dick Howser Stadium and have a tall, cold one as you watch Florida State baseball. This is the sounds of the ball hitting the mitt, the smell of the grass, the whole to-do.
Those evening games early in the season can get a little nippy.
Well, get tough. They get tough.
Not to you.
Yeah.
But those of us who are warm-blooded creatures.
I got to confess, guys, I'm embarrassed to admit it's starting to happen to me.
Ooh.
Oh, you getting cold?
I'm getting cold.
buddy. Welcome
I don't
to
like
the
to
club.
talk about it. It upsets me. I lie to people about the fact that I'm not cold, even when I am. I'm confessing on the air right now. I've had somebody say, "Aren't you cold?" Because I'm not wearing proper
Right.
gear, and I'll go, "No, I'm fine. I like cold weather." But inside, I'm dying a little bit. It's getting a little chilly for me, and I don't like to know. Like, the worst is that I was outside the other day and I felt very cold, and I was like, "Damn, I'm freezing." And I looked at my phone and it was 61.
Yeah.
And
Well, that's
ridiculous.
I was
would
thinking,
have spit on somebody if they told me they were cold when it was 61 5-10 years ago.
There's and you also live in Florida. You think your blood would be a little thinner, but there's three things I think that men our age, we have younger listeners, not probably in their teens, but we have younger listeners.
Yeah, we do.
And there's things that people don't tell you about growing old as a man. First off, this is the biggest surprise, and I'm going to get
Can't wait to see where this is going.
Let me go with the temperature first. Yes, nobody tells you that when you get to a certain age, you're going to be cold. You're always, to me anyway. I also lost some weight. I've lost some weight, and I just feel cold everywhere I go. Everywhere I go, I feel cold.
Your skin and bones, Corey. That was bound to happen. But you combine that with age, buddy.
Yeah, I know. Secondly,
and the lack of hair.
The lack of hair. Yo, buddy, you don't even know about this. I wear a wig now when I go out. I have to. Secondly,
big Ethel Merman wig. It's awesome.
Secondly, hawking up stuff. Just reflux for life. Anytime I drink a smoothie, I'm hawking up stuff. And that's probably some more to do with my chest stuff. Yeah. But old men have it all along the world. It's like the older you get, you're just hawking up stuff. You constantly are hawking up, choking, coughing.
You cough for no reason.
No reason.
You cough all the time.
That's coming, kids. It's coming for you. It's coming for all of us. It came for us already, at least me, and it's coming for you, 29-year-old. It
stinks. My wife is like, she's like, "I'm not trying to be a jerk, but I'm a little worried you have throat cancer." I said, "Why?"
Yeah.
She said, "Because you cough incessantly for no reason." I said, "There's a reason. I'm old."
Yeah. You can't do anything about it, woman. I don't know why our bodies are built differently.
I'm cold and I'm coughing.
Yeah.
What's the next bodily function you want to share with us, Corey?
No, we're not sharing anything.
No, this one is just
you pee a lot.
No, things drop.
Yeah, well,
things aren't where they were.
So here's what I was going to say.
Things aren't where they were.
This is the best part about that whole process. I was thinking about when
what process?
The aging and the cold thing.
The last thing I just said.
Yeah. My dad, when growing up, my dad would take me to the horse track because he was a degenerate gambler, and I wanted to follow along.
I admire that about him, by the way.
We were always at the horse track, right? Well, there's a lot of old people at the horse track because it's kind of a dying industry, guys. It once was the sport of kings. Not really so much anymore. But we
roll
would go
up to one of those horse tracks at 4:30 and like, do you feel like a king? Don't you feel like royalty with these people?
Look at these guys, these subjects of the royal.
But so in South Florida at the track in the summer, which was when I would go a lot with them because I didn't have school, was it's 95 degrees and we're at the horse track and sometimes you're outside and the old people would have their jackets on and their hats. And my dad would make fun of them. And he would constantly, "Look at this guy. It's 100 degrees out here. And he's got a jacket and and then 25 years later, I would be like, "Hey man, remember?" But, because he became that guy. That's,
we are going to become that guy.
I'm really thankful that this was about jackets. I thought you were going to talk about old people in the heat, things dropping like Corey mentioned. I was worried.
Gotcha. No,
because of shorts and things.
Oh yeah. Again, it's nobody just tells you about it. That's all. You just know that there's some bodily changes are coming too, guys.
Yeah. All right. So we can. Should we start headliners questions? What else do we want to talk about here in this last couple of minutes?
We have 1 minute left in the hour. It's impossible to pivot from. We should just go back and talk about beer again.
Sounds good.
More beer.
No, I have another
we were talking about Florida State baseball. Damn it, is what we were talking.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
And I was excited to go over, and I can't believe how close we are. And by the way, speaking of that,
you start talking about balls.
Yeah, baseballs indeed.
Right.
But I do have one question in the remaining 40 seconds or so. Ira, I've had to do this, but not to the degree you have lately, and yours is for a good reason with a bad result. So I'm going to ask you, are you once again going to lock in on a nightly basis and put yourself through it to watch the Baltimore Orioles win 100 games and win none in the playoffs and score all of 0 runs.
It's worth the journey is worth it, Ira. The journey is worth it.
Yeah, it's I wasn't real fired up about Corbin Burns leaving us, but I guess that was to be expected. Yeah, man, listen, it is about the journey. It is about the journey.
That's right.
I'll be there. I'm looking forward to it, dude. As much as you're looking forward to getting out to Hauser to watch FSU baseball, I'm looking forward to going to my patio and watching the Orioles.
It's a good thing. It's a good thing. Hour 2 headliner questions forthcoming. Stay with. Hour number 2, Seminole headlines, headliner questions begins right now. Good thing. And we want to say thanks, as always, as we get this hour underway, to our friend Dr. Birch Orthodontics. So today's the 4th. Corey, I'm not going to tell you I'm going on Thursday, but I am going 1 week from today with Clark, and it may be the fateful day.
Sure.
That the braces are coming off, buddy. Please, Dr. Birch, I'm begging you, make it.
Then what will we do for this segment?
Well, we'll just talk about the raging success story.
Okay. Yeah. All right. That's true.
I feel like Dr. Birch, listen, Heather, think about this. We've been doing this, this deal for many years now. And you've got merch. You need to send some merch over.
Birch merch.
Remember she did it for the party.
I forgot about the merch. Come on, Doctor.
She's got some merch
doing out here.
So I can just hold up some props because I've got the Tavello cups. I've got a Register sausage hat right over here I can put on, which again you can go buy at registermeats.com. They've got the gear you can buy, and obviously Tavello, you can ask about the merch they have. They've got coasters and all kinds of really cool stuff there. Dr. Birch, we gotta not just have the merch to give away, which she does because she's a great person, but also maybe sell it. People want a ride or die orthodontist shirt. I think that would just sell. It would sell quick.
Well, and also think most orthodontists, they get a majority of their business for just like if you wear a hat. Like if they have cool merch and hats, you know that office is full.
You're like, they must be a whiz with the teeth.
Yeah, look at this shirt.
They're influencers in Birch Orthodontics. But in all seriousness, all of our kids have gone there. A lot of our friends' kids have gone there. A lot of celebrities you wouldn't believe whose kids have gone there. Birch Orthodontics, Dr. Heather Birch, over 20 years in Tallahassee, located conveniently northeast Tallahassee. It's great customer service. It's not one of those places where you make an appointment and sit for an hour before you're seen. They do tremendous work, all the latest technology, but also great customer service, payment plans. They can do the financing for you. They also have free consultations. Recommend them. We can't recommend them any higher.
The off season has brought a bit of an angry side to the questioners on Facebook, Corey, just so you know.
That's fine.
Your people are out for blood.
Is it the Facebook? Right. Is it the Facebook people?
It's the Facebook people.
Okay.
Well, I mean,
it's not that reasonable, rational Twitter crowd.
If you're spending a lot of time on Facebook, there's a good chance.
Calm it down, Ira. We don't
I'm just saying, there's a good chance if you want. Because listen, man, if the algorithm figures out you don't like to be aggravated, they're going to give you stuff to aggravate you. So it's that's why they're a little tempered over there. Not like the calming influences we have on Twitter.
Yeah, this is kind of fun because we get lighthearted on Twitter to begin the day, and we get heavy hitting on Facebook to begin the day. So I can go either way. You want me to go start with heavy hitting?
Sure.
Judson says, fellas, I got love for y'all, so please hear I'm bringing this question sincerely.
There we go. All right.
Doesn't that feel like a however or
no offense, but all due respect.
Yeah.
All due respect. You're a complete idiot.
Yeah. Here we go. That's how it began.
What did we get terribly wrong?
Oh, there's a bunch of things, and he lists them all.
Okay.
But I like that because I read that first sentence and I went, oh, here it comes. As a listener to FSU media, including Seminole Headlines, the JCS, the Smash, other outlets, podcasts as well, I found myself disappointed by expectations that I have developed as I was listening to you guys. Some examples of impressions that I got from listening to the FSU media. Willie Taggart was going to be a home run hire. Jim Phillips is a promising and exciting hire for the ACC that the Big Ten missed out on. Amarius Mims is coming to Tallahassee. There's no way FSU would be snubbed by the committee.
Yeah.
I feel like Judson really does like us. I think that's what I'm coming across.
He's been disappointed.
FSU in 2024 will compete for the ACC title. FSU will be leaving the ACC by 2027 for greener pastures. My question is...
So that's where it comes from. That's where that comes from. I think, honestly, is like that's the newsiest part of all this is that last one, that it looks like they might still be in the ACC for a while.
Well, yes, but they also may have a much better set of circumstances by which
it could have changed.
Do you consider my expectations from listening to the FSU media? And if so, have you all struggled with confidence in covering this program, particularly in football during this turbulent time?
I'll go first. I will say this. Those are fair criticisms. That they are. They're also. We've been doing this show since 2010.
Yeah.
And I'm just speaking for this show. And we've been in this line of work, all of us. Me since 2007 down here. You guys longer than that. You're going to get things wrong. Nobody bats 1,000. We've gotten a lot of things right too. But yeah, those are some big ones that most of the FSU media missed on or were
and I think he's saying that he's not saying the three of us specific. He's saying
I know. But I mean, we get things right too. But I get the question.
Well, can we take them really quickly? I mean, we can go through them one by one. Yeah, I mean, let's go through them one by one. Willie Taggart was known as a great recruiter.
Yeah,
nobody, I think, thought he was a great coach, but I think most people assumed he would surround himself with good coaches, which I think Oregon kind of made him do. Florida State did not. They let him hire whoever the hell he wanted. It was a disaster. They at least peeled off the Band-Aid. But, the hype around Willie Taggart was because, man, you put a guy like that, as charismatic as he has, as recruited as well as he has at other places, and put him at Florida State right after, they had won a national title 5 years earlier. It seemed like, man, that would – who said that was a bad hire? Nobody said that was a bad hire. So you're mad at the world. I mean,
no, I don't. Yeah, so that's fair. That's the reason we thought that would be a good. I did bet on him being able to out recruit his game day problems.
Right,
and the problems were so obvious immediately that even if he is a great recruiter, he couldn't turn that.
Yeah, it became problematic pretty quickly.
And then they couldn't fulfill what they wanted to do in recruiting. I mean, that first recruiting summer, his camp thing, his Seminole showcase thing or whatever it was called. Man, they had Thibodeau. They had the top players in the country on this campus.
Right.
If they had just played decently, I think
they could have just won some damn games.
Yeah.
I'll tackle this second one because I remember saying this, and so I'll take responsibility. I think others thought this as well, but the next one that he mentioned is Jim Phillips being a promising hire, and that the Big Ten missed out. Well, remember this, Judson, the reason that any of us would have thought that is that somehow Jim Phillips was able to convince academia and the folks at Northwestern to build a massive athletic facility and structure above and beyond anybody's wildest dreams at Northwestern of all places, and nobody thought that possible. And he was responsible for not only rallying the troops and securing the funding and doing all of those things. He was a guy that brought a lot of disparate groups together in order to make that happen. So you had a guy who could form consensus, who could get people to buy in at a place where academics is way up here compared to athletics. So the thought was, if you have that kind of a guy with his educational background as well, then you have a good chance to come in here and maybe get the most out of a conference that had yet to secure that. That's not unreasonable to assume because that was a hell of an accomplishment. In fact, that's Jim Phillips' best accomplishment.
But also, what is he – look, we make fun of the way he publicly speaks.
Yeah, he's awful at it.
But what has he done poorly? It's his predecessor that put all of us into this mess, not Jim Phillips. And all he's trying to do right now is keep the ACC
together,
intact. And if he's made some adjustments where Florida State and Clemson might actually drop lawsuits or at least delay them and stay in this conference for another 3 or 4 years, then he's done a pretty good job as a commissioner.
Yeah, we make fun
of
a horrible hand. Terrible public speaker, right?
Yeah,
right.
But he was dealt a horrible hand.
Yeah, he was dealt. He was 2-7 offsuited with this conference. And listen, I'm not defending him. I think there's probably things he should have done better. He should have gone in with a baseball bat at that spring meetings 2 years ago and said, listen, man, we cannot let Florida State and Clemson leave. You guys have to step to the table and do what they're talking about doing now, which is giving more money to the brand. So, I mean, he has not done a good job. But, man, none of us met Jim Phillips. None of us knew Jim Phillips. The only thing we were basing some of our commentary on, and it wasn't just, again, an FSU media thing. It was college athletics, because I had texts that as soon as it came out that Jim Phillips was going to be the guy, from people in the industry across the country who were like, I cannot believe the ACC got Jim Phillips.
Yes.
He could not have been higher regarded. He obviously couldn't fix this. And I think he's done a poor job in a lot of areas, but that was not us. We didn't know him. That was the narrative nationally. So anyway.
Ira.
Well, I mean, I just think
doth protest too much. It's just
irritating. The Maris Mims things probably is what set me off. But in general,
let's
address that one.
Skip over that one.
You can address that one if you want, even though it's go ahead.
Whatever, man. Yeah, man, he was coming to Florida State. He was going to come. He told people he was coming to Florida State. That's what he was told. That's what I was told. That's what I reported. He changed his mind. I think Georgia.
He changed his mind based on a tragedy. I mean, there's like a lot of stuff there, but
but I'm not.
There's that. The snub by the committee was something I thought we would never see in college football, and I said it repeatedly. I didn't think it could happen. I believed that the integrity of the sport was on the line. Little did I know they didn't care about the integrity of the sport, and they have been bastardized because of it, and people do no longer trust the folks in college football because they chose to do something that was completely unprecedented.
It had never happened before. It should never have happened.
It was ridiculous.
It's not and again, this is not a Florida State thing or not a media thing. I was on the field. We were on the field at the ACC championship game after they beat Louisville, and everybody I talked to was like, yes, they cannot keep Florida State out. And then 12 hours later, they kept Florida State out. So, again, this is not just three idiots in a room.
Well, because we're not in the same room.
If we were, he'd be right.
Oh, well.
But I think that here's what I think. I think that there's an uncertainty that goes with some of the stuff that we have to talk about. And we can tell you the good and the bad and everything in between. And then we give you an opinion. And as Corey pointed out, we get a gazillion things right. Those aren't the things that typically stand out. Because just like everybody else, you don't go through the drive-through line, get great service, and then call the manager to tell them what a wonderful job they did. It never happens. It's only when they miss your fries or they don't give you that extra.
Or they put mayonnaise on your sandwich.
And
Ira storms back into the whatever restaurant.
And that's
takes
the nature,
my food with him.
That's the nature of the beast. That's how that works. So you're always going to, go into. He asked whether or not it's reasonable for him to be worried about consuming as much FSU media as he does. And I believe this to be a sincere question, so fair enough. I don't know if it has that kind of adverse effect on you, then maybe you don't need to do it. You got to gauge for yourself. I listen to a lot of different podcasts on a lot of different subjects. I kind of discern what I think is or is not reality about that or who's right and who's wrong, and I move on. And as long as I think that the hosts are coming from a place of sincerity, integrity, and honesty, they can be wrong. It's okay. I'll live with it. I understand that's the nature of the beast.
The one thing that I wish I could go back and do out of all that stuff, the Willie Taggart stuff, because so much was made about the music at practice, and I didn't have a problem with the music at all. I mean, they play music now. Most college programs have music. I didn't care about that at all. It was a far cry from Jimbo, and we didn't get to watch much of practice, but we got to watch a couple, and it was not it just felt like you just lost Jimbo in that the maniacal side of Jimbo. It had crumbled. Everybody was excited about Willie Taggart. They really were. Everybody was excited about him. He seemed like a good person. He probably is a good person. Seemed like he'd be a good coach, breath of fresh air. In that first practice I watched, I was like, this doesn't have a feel of a real hardworking college practice.
We also didn't get to watch the full practices.
Well, I think we got to watch one or two in the spring. That's why I'm basing it on. Whereas, they practice celebrating touchdowns and stuff like that. I really didn't have a problem with that. It was a lot of standing around. And I just felt, looking back now, 8 years later, that was a harbinger of things to come. And if I did want to piss off people, it'd be like, hey, guys, I know you're excited about this coach. A lot of standing around at this practice. Like, I kind of knew my role. Like, okay, that's just one practice. That's just what. Don't mention that. In hindsight, maybe I could have brought that. We talked about music too much and how I was cool with it. I never really brought up the fact that, man, they do stand around a lot. There's a lot of standing around watching other guys do things. Remember, Jimbo had both practice fields going all the time.
Yeah.
And then obviously that clip a few years, maybe the next year, of the running back drill where that student manager is just doing this as they run by. It's like, man, that sums up those practices perfectly. And I really did.
Radar went off. He got nervous.
Yeah.
One of the things I just want to add to this too.
What a great question, by the way.
Also,
it provoked a lot of commentary.
And I also just want to say real quick, Jeff, I am very impressed by you because you are handling this very well. I thought your last comments before were awesome. Congratulations. Keep it up. But I was not a fan of some of the allegations.
We could tell.
Yeah, but it's okay. I'll allow for some criticism. I just want people to understand that, we're going to get some things wrong because we give an opinion every day. I know it's funny. I get an email a day from somebody who hates me at minimum, sometimes many more.
And those are usually from me. Nice show today.
It looks like this signed Ted Jones, but it really looks like something Corey Clark would write. The thing of it is I've been doing this for 27 years, giving an opinion every single day for 27 years for 3 or 4 hours a day. I've butchered a lot of things. I've also kicked ass on a lot of things, and I have been a whole bunch of in the middle. That's just kind of, if you are tasked with the responsibility of having an opinion about a subject every day, that's what's going to happen.
Yeah, man, and I'm fine with it. I am the one person probably. I mean, I think Jeff does it some. Corey does not really. Like, I check my comments, and if people criticize me, I just roll with it. I'm fine with it. What I didn't like about this question is the premise. Again, you're sending it to us, so you could say it's FSU media, but you're basically saying you guys got these things wrong. Why should I believe what you're saying anymore? Or why should I have comments? That's your call, man. Like, change, listen to a different show, start your own podcast. If you have all the answers. No, I'm just saying, you know what I'm saying? I mean, it's a weird thing to do. Again, it would be like going into a restaurant, like you said, and saying, hey, I've eaten at your restaurant 5 times. I've never liked any of the meals. Why would I come back here again? Just go to a different restaurant. I don't know what to tell you.
Here comes Matt Millar, producer extraordinaire from back in the golden age of radio. Nice. He says, hey, guys, great show. Keep up the good work. If it wasn't called Seminole Headlines, which is a great name, by the way.
Yeah.
He's patting himself on the back. What would you have named this 2-hour piece of programming instead?
Piece of programming is a nice way to describe it.
What would you have named? What would we have named?
Yeah, because it was called Headlines initially because we were at the newspaper. It was a crossover between it was 2 newspaper writers, 3 because Jim Lamar was involved back then as well. And so it was a newspaper plus. So that's where Headlines came from. Yeah. I don't know.
It's a perfect name. And
we could have called it like, I don't know, like Serial. That was a popular podcast. I'm trying to think of other popular what WTF?
We were before Serial.
I don't know what we would have called it. David Wright.
We weren't even a podcast back then, right? In 2010, we were probably just the show.
Just a show.
Jeff and the boys.
Yeah, there you go. David writes, hey, gents, after listening to Jeff's existential dread last week and the latest JCS W's and L's, I'm now convinced that 7-5 isn't nearly good enough. They have to do everything possible to go 8-4 or 9-3 to 2022 would be similar to 2022 would be great. Obviously, this means going 1-3 or 2-2 against your 4 toughest opponents. What has to happen for this to be realistic?
Quarterback stays healthy. Defense can affect the quarterback.
I like the answer.
Yeah, I mean, Alabama, nobody has any idea how their quarterback's going to play. It'll probably be the guy that's been there for 2 or 3 years. I can't remember his name right now, Simpson or something. But anyway, he's thrown like 40 or 50 passes in college football. So they don't know exactly what they're going to have out of him. We certainly don't know what they're going to. So that game, if they don't get good quarterback play now, and if this defense is good, and if Castellanos can make some plays, that should be a competitive game. I said before, I think Clemson on the road is going to be really, really difficult for Florida State to win. I think a lot of things would have to go right, but yeah, man, Miami and Florida. I mean, those are not games you don't have a chance in.
What's funny though is the premise, and I don't think there's like an actual number. There's a number it can't be. Like if it's 2 or 3 again, you're probably gonna have to make an awful change. But the fact that like, okay, if he gets to 8, he stays. If he only gets to 7, he's probably gone. So that Florida game,
no.
But that was the premise there. It has to be. It can't be 7-5. It has to be 8-4 or 9-3. Well, it can be 7-5. It can be 5-7. Like we have no idea what the season's going to be, but like you go into that Florida game thinking, okay, if he wins, we don't have to spend $60 million to fire him. If he loses, this is going to cost us $60 million because we're going to have to fire him. Like I don't think that's how the season will be viewed strictly. That was kind of the point I was making last week. Strictly in the wins. It'll be how it looks, how it feels, if there's any hope. More like the existential dread. If there's dread coming off of next season, whether it's 8 wins or 6 wins, that's a real problem. But if you find some stuff you like and we're happy about and you see some good direction, that Florida game doesn't dictate whether you spend $60
I have a hard time believing there would be any dread coming off an 8-win season.
No.
What if you lost to Florida 40-6?
Well, listen, yes, that's not good, but I
still got the bowl game to look forward to.
If you go 8-4 a year after going 2-10, I don't think you're feeling dread.
Might be a parade. Might be a parade.
I'm not going that far either. I'm just saying. It'd be if you win 8 games this upcoming year, it's going to be hard to feel dread. There may be some things you're concerned with, but dread. Sure. I don't think about dread.
No, you're right.
Seminole Headlines, 93.3 Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV continues in a moment. Headliner question rolling on here very quickly. Tony writes, with Leonard Hamilton retiring after the season, it feels like Florida State is closing the book on an era of legendary long-tenured coaches. Bobby Bowden, Mike Barton, Sue Semrau, Mark Krikorian, Odell Hagens, who's been a staple of the program for decades. Was having so many long-tenured coaches at once something unique to Florida State University, or have other schools experienced a similar era of coaching stability? What factors contributed to FSU keeping these coaches for so long? Is that kind of longevity still possible in today's sports landscape? Great question, Tony.
This is a great question.
I think, first of all, let's just acknowledge the fact that those coaches that you're referencing were part of a lot of wins. That's what made it possible.
I wonder
you don't get to stick around if you suck.
In the minor sports, I feel like it's probably more common for these coaches to stick around for decades. If they like a place they're at, because you're not getting rich. You're not getting rich as a tennis coach. I mean, you're making good money, but you're not going to become a gazillionaire or climb up the ladder. So tennis coach, golf coach, I feel like if you find a place you like, you can stay there for decades.
Got to win.
As long as you're good. As long as you're good.
Yeah, and as Jeff said, we don't say minor coach, Corey.
Sometimes
we'll say Olympic sports.
Olympic sports, non-revenue.
Revenue sports.
Look, I say what I want to say.
If
that's
Corey,
the beauty of the show, and you're not going to do anything about it.
I think if you're the head coach of an irrelevant program, right, you're allowed to do whatever.
I didn't say irrelevant, just minor. Not a lot of fans attending kind of program.
Anyway, I think Tallahassee's a cool place to live, man. There's a reason we all stayed here. It's a good place to raise a family. I think that's a factor. And I also think, as Jeff said, they found some coaches that had a lot of success, and then they answered the call when those coaches were approached. I mean, Sue Semrau had other opportunities. Florida State paid up to keep her. Clearly, Mike Martin, when I was at Georgia, I think that came after him.
Yeah, back in the day.
Yeah, I mean, Lonnie Alameda is at SEC school after SEC school, throw crazy money at her, and they've stepped up to keep her. That's part of it also. I mean, it's a good place to live. There's a lot of things that are great in terms of recruiting base and all of that. It's a very good university. And then on top of that, I think Florida State's administration has done a pretty good job of remaining competitive when they need to.
I do want to add to this towards the end. He asked, and you're naming the factors and things like that. That's true. I don't think it's really all that possible to see that kind of longevity in today's sports landscape.
Certainly not in football. Doesn't seem probable that you're going to have a coach at a school for 30 years much anymore.
It doesn't seem likely. And I also think the money's so great now, people aren't going to stick around when they're filthy rich.
Yeah.
And things get kind of tough after, like, say, 7 to 10 years, and you've made more money than you'll ever spend. If you made $70 million or $50 million, if you're one of these big time football coaches and things get hot, you're like, screw it.
I think the ultimate test or the most interesting case will be Link Jarrett if he continues to have success and if he wins a national title. I mean, the fact that he's a Tallahassee guy, still has family here, is that enough of a draw? Or at some point do the competitive juices say, no, man, I need to do it at a different program to establish who I am? Or does he, I don't know, does he have an interest in coaching baseball, like pro baseball?
It's interesting. I've thought about that too, because this is his program. He was an All-American here. As you said, he was raised here, played high school baseball here. He came over to the ballpark as a little kid, went to those camps, did all those things. Like, this is his dream job. He left Notre Dame, came here. This is his dream job. If you win a national title, the only place for him to go would be Major League Baseball. I don't think.
Does that happen?
It does happen. It does happen.
I don't remember any college coaches going to being a Major League Baseball manager.
Well, he might not be a manager.
Nick Hauser did, and that was 50 years ago.
I'll give you one right now. The former Arizona State head coach is currently the manager of the Milwaukee Brewers, and he's a good one. Arizona State's head coach was.
He went from Arizona State to the Brewers?
He's the manager of the Milwaukee Brewers right now.
No,
I'm saying, but he.
There you go directly.
That's just not a thing that happens.
Pat Murphy is his name, and Pat Murphy was a relatively legendary college coach at Arizona State back when Florida State in the 90s would play Arizona State every year, or frequently. And Pat Murphy was a big-time college coach, and I don't know the succession, Corey, to answer your question of how quickly he went from Arizona State to the Brewers. But there's an example.
But it wasn't. My point is, I wouldn't think Link would leave Florida State to be like the fielding coach for the Braves. He would leave unless that's what he wants to do, is maybe be a manager one day. I would think he'd leave to be the manager of the Braves. That just doesn't happen in college. It's weird. It's not even like countering what Jeff's saying. It's like that's the sport. It never happens. Like football, they'll hire a college coach. Basketball, they've gone away from it a little bit, but they'll hire college coaches. Major League Baseball,
I think the scenario would probably. I don't think he'd be. Seems unlikely he'd be picked as the head coach unless, he wins multiple national championships and he's got a connection to the ownership or something. But you can see a scenario where he's got plenty of friends in the business. He's very highly respected. If a manager at another team is like, man, you got to come be my number 2 guy. I need you to handle all the day-to-day stuff. I'll meet with the media. You run our team, and then you'll become a major league manager 3 years from now. Maybe that's a scenario.
It's funny to think about him. I don't know how often you guys have gone and watched like a Florida State baseball practice with him.
I've watched
it's nonstop, and it's a lot of work. Imagine that rolling into Turner Field at 3:30 in the afternoon in July.
Yeah, but I think
Ozzie, get out there. 100 ground balls, Ozzie. Let's go. He's like, what are you talking about?
I think he would adjust. I'll just say
it's just funny to think about that.
It is. For the purposes of clarity here, it's pretty much direct, Corey. Pat Murphy got in a little bit of trouble at Arizona State.
Oh, okay.
He won. He was the youngest college coach in history to win 500 games. He was coach of the year and was Pac-10 coach of the year 4 times. He led Arizona State to the College World Series a bunch.
All right, then let's move on. We don't care about Pat Murphy, but how did he get there?
He ended up coaching the Netherlands national team, and then the Padres hired him. He was 1 year with the Padres, and then he was named the manager of the Brewers.
But not a manager of the Padres. He was an assistant?
He was an assistant for 1 year.
Okay, yeah.
So that's how that went.
Well, the Netherlands run. Ira, you remember that great Netherlands team?
Man,
World Baseball Classic, buddy.
It's fun to watch.
With some warranted gloom from Mr. Man, a lot of people think I was gloomy last week.
You were gloomy. I told you I drink bleach.
That's all right. You gotta shoot him straight, Corey.
It's a fun listen.
This is Panama Noel. He writes, B-ball will hopefully have a refreshed outlook, and with this football staff, I think the chances of us going 8-4 are better than going 4-8. What say you?
I would agree with that. I mean, I'm not saying 4-8 can't happen. But I would, if you gave me $50 or $1,000 like you bet, Jeff, would I put it on 8-4? Would I put on 4-8? I'd put on 8-4.
Yeah, I agree. I think they're going to be improved. We're not guaranteeing it.
Yeah.
But we think
Judson will come back in a year. Point out that I said they were going to be 8-4.
We think they'll be much improved.
Vishal writes, with regards to staying ACC for football, would it be beneficial to use our 2 or 3 non-conference games and play Big Ten or SEC teams at neutral sites? That way it strengthens our schedule and provides more funds, maybe even helps in recruiting.
So what's the premise?
He wants us to play our 2 or 3 non-conference games and play Big Ten and SEC teams. Well, of course, we're always going to play Florida.
The next few years, they're playing Georgia and Alabama.
Yeah.
So you got 2 SEC schools right there.
Yeah. But on top of your non-conference games?
Well, no.
So he's saying change your SEC opponents to Big Ten opponents is what he's saying?
He's saying that any non-conference opponent should be like a big-time.
If it's not, the only way you're going to get to the playoff is to win your conference, which is probably how it is in the ACC, or at least be in the top 2. Why not make your non-conference moneymakers where you get paid to go play? That brings money to the university. As opposed to you're going to make money this year because you're playing Alabama. Next year you don't because you're on the road. He's saying make the non-conferences the FSU Ole Miss game, the FSU LSU games,
right?
The FSU Ohio State.
Yeah, I mean, I just think it goes back to, you do want to build confidence in a team. You do want to get wins. Those are important. And you also, the health of your team. If you're playing, 11 Power 4 opponents, there's going to be a lot more wear and tear. So I get the idea, but I think there are some pretty big downsides to it.
What's your confidence level in, this is from Ryan, and Alfred making a good basketball hire? Just a straightforward question.
I mean, his hires so far have been good. He's only had a couple of head coaching hires. Brian Penske, soccer, has won a national title, and Link Jarrett at baseball is pretty much a grand slam. So his track record so far has been really good. The basketball one's going to be tricky, man, because, again, if you look at the pool of candidates, and we've got a lot of coverage at warchant.com, people can look at, the different people that have been mentioned so far and that we think are in the running. You've got, some people that have this NBA experience, like Sam Cassell, Luke Laux. You've got the college assistant coaches like CY, Charlton Young, who coached here before. Then you've got some college head coaches who are maybe have reasons to be interested in Florida State. Maybe they've had trouble at Will Wade, guys like that at other schools. None of them is going to be a perfect solution. You're not getting Mike Krzyzewski. You're not getting Tony Bennett. You're not getting Billy Donovan. So, there's going to be you're taking
Tony Bennett, Ira. We don't want Tony Bennett.
Yeah, I definitely don't want our eyes
get that name off your lips.
But you're not going to get the perfect package, So you're going to be taking somewhat of a risk. So I don't think it's a slam dunk that he's going to make a great hire. But I don't know that I would say there's any evidence to say he won't either.
As a side note, that was my wrestling name. Perfect Package.
The Perfect Package. Jeff
that's
Cameron.
not bad.
Yeah. They welcomed me to the ring under the name Perfect.
And you wore like a UPS outfit, the big brown box.
I think Lex Luger, the Total Package, might have battled you. Corey, I'm sorry I jumped in there. Any thoughts, Corey? What are your thoughts?
You know what? I've gone on and on about how much I like Leonard Hamilton. I'm legitimately excited about something new. I could be lamenting that in a year or two, but I'm legitimately excited about something new. I'd like to, not trying to shoot arrows at. I'd like a team that can shoot. I'd like a team that can shoot. That'd be fun to see.
Also, no 6-year contracts. That's the best way to not.
Yeah.
Does anyone precisely know what is wrong with Leiter? Sean wants to know, the OG headliner, and he said, what is the percentage chance that we would see him pitch this year?
2 to 10.
2 to 10%, says Corey.
Yeah. Oh, I came up with a cool saying that it completely. If a team goes, I came up with something called the steering wheel season. That Florida State fans would be really, really excited about a steering wheel season in football this year. Do you know what a steering wheel season is?
10 to 2.
10 and 2.
Yeah.
10 and 2.
They had it backwards last year.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, I guess technically they were still safe.
Still the same.
Does that mean they're down here?
No, 10 and 2 was still the same. It was 2.
I guess you cross it over like this.
They were trying to drive like this with their eyes closed and drunk.
Yeah.
That's what they were.
So that's it. If you have a steering wheel season, 10 and 2.
Oh well, hell, we'd all take a steering wheel season right about now.
People are going to be happy.
back to Leiter. I mean, I don't know the specifics, the details. I just know that what I was on, he just has not come back. It's just the rehab.
This was 11 months ago, right?
Yeah,
10 months ago.
I think
I'm rooting for the kid because I would hate to see his career ruined. Once he gets to a certain point and you still can't get back, and you're hearing that the velocity's not there, that's tough, man. I'm worried for him. I mean that. Like, that sucks. That he has promising stuff. To have that happen. I'd be very surprised if we saw him pitch for Florida State this year.
Yeah, it does, man. It's just, that's the most, you asked me at the end of the last hour just about the Orioles season, and man, I'm excited about it. But you just think about, I mean, last year the Orioles had like 3 starters go down with elbow injuries. I mean, it just sucks, man. We talk about how, W and L's are hard in college football this time of year, just with the way the sport has evolved. Pro baseball, man, I mean, or any baseball at any level, it's just hard to even predict because you have no idea what your pitching staff's going to look like 3 months from now.
The Braves had the best, I thought, one of, if not the best team in baseball until all their pitchers got hurt. So that was like kind of, they also lost their best position player too.
First week, and then they lost Acuna. Yeah, it wasn't great. Still made the playoffs though.
That's a toughie, man. If Paul Skeens gets hurt, guys, no chance to win 102 games in Pittsburgh like we know they will with it.
Yeah.
So it's it's a toughie. Seminole Headlines, 93.3 Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV continues in a moment. Away we go. Let's get some more questions in here, friends. Looking back at 2016, how much better off would FSU have been by going to the Big 12? I know that wasn't a great option, but signing a 20-year grant of rights seems much worse. I really do feel like we've lost brand value since, and that decline has been expedited after the snub and this past year. That's from Tom.
Yeah, man, I just, we go back to where you were at that time. There was no way to know that. And listen, man, people that were on that side now can obviously say, yeah, you should have gone. See, I was right at that time, but we did not know that the contracts for the SEC and the Big Ten would not just be bigger than the ACC, but dwarf them, 15 years later. But, yeah, I mean, the idea of those trips just was not appealing. I mean, for the fan base and you didn't think those people would, Iowa State's not filling Doe Campbell either. So it's, you were kind of trading 6 for a half dozen in the other. It felt like with that conference.
It's
maybe
the same conference,
position, but
you'd be, in hindsight, you'd be better now because the contract has come up and you'd be a free agent. But at the time, this was 2011. Right around there, 2011, 2012, I feel like is the expansion.
Yeah.
It's like, man, think about your fans telling them we're leaving this one kind of middling conference for another middling conference. And Texas and Oklahoma are there. Well, for a few years, but Texas is by far the big dog. You're going in as a second dog, second fiddle. And it's Ames, it's Manhattan, it's Waco. It's all these places where it's really hard for Florida State fans to get to. And it's like, and I was thinking real quick, I guarantee you 85% of Maryland fans, sports fans, would prefer them to be in the ACC right now. Right now, what are they doing with that money? Nothing.
Yeah, that's the point that you can make is you can say it's great to make this money annually.
But the fans aren't making the money.
Right. The fans go to games and watch their team get their head kicked in.
Right.
Now, theoretically, if the money was used well and it made you competitive, then that would be the answer.
But Maryland fans don't care enough about football. I don't think.
How about you use Rutgers as an example? Like, cool, you make a ton of money. You guys will never win anything in the Big Ten.
But Maryland actually had not storied rivalries, but bitter rivalries in basketball with those schools. Those were those schools, Virginia, North Carolina.
It's killed them in basketball because you're absolutely right. Maryland was a legit power in the ACC, and those were the great rivalries. I mean, watching Maryland, North Carolina, Maryland, Duke, those were big games.
They just had it, but it's like nobody cares about the history, or they didn't when they made that decision because Maryland fans love nothing more than beating Duke. They just don't. That's what they care about, or North Carolina. And they've been rivals for 30 years, and then all of a sudden you're saying, look, we're making more money. Now we got a rivalry with Penn State in Northwestern, in Michigan. Maryland fans are like, I don't like this. I would wager that most Maryland fans would go back to the ACC in a heartbeat just because that's what they know.
Probably especially because they're not having
they haven't used
football.
it. Yeah, they haven't used it for any good.
Mike writes, hey, guys, what's your opinion about Josh Turner, CFO, and what do you know about him?
Georgia Southern, right?
Yeah.
Statesboro. I lived there for 2 years. I know what Statesboro's about.
It's funny, and I'm not I don't have a problem with the question, but it's just, for whatever reason, what's his name at ESPN tweeted out that that's who they were going to hire. So a lot of people were like excited about that hire because, we're bringing in a CFO and a money guy. Florida State's had a CFO forever. I mean, when I first got here, it was Greg Phillips. They've had Russ Cobb was the most recent CFO. They've always had that position. They brought in somebody new that they will have a little bit of an expanded role also because trying to make sense of salary caps. I think that's going to be one of the focuses. It's always mostly been kind of a business and accounting position, but now I think the new hire is going to be a little bit more involved in cap management and with the revenue sharing and how that all works out. But it's one of those positions. As far as you're asking us, man, those positions have been there forever. It's not something we really follow or pay close attention to.
Richard writes, Gents and Corey, still struggling with 2-10. Not sure if I'm more disappointed it actually happened or that Coach Norvell didn't make adjustments during the season to avoid it. So he wanted to know our thoughts on that. I think we've exhausted them.
It's worrisome. Look, I think it's more worrisome that you put together a roster and a coaching staff that could produce a 2-10 season. Not the in-season adjustments. Like it became apparent there wasn't a whole lot he could do. There's more than he could have done, clearly.
Yeah.
But and that goes for don't play kids that don't try hard on every play. Send messages. I think there were mistakes across the board. To me, the most worrisome aspect is how did he think that was a competitive roster in hindsight? Not competitive, but did a chance to get to a playoff. How did he miss by that much is what worries me.
Iris hinted at this before, too. I think there was a lot of shutting down once they whiffed as badly as they did and they started 0-2. But I would also say I was perturbed and commented on it during the course of the season that we saw little to no adjustments to what they were attempting to accomplish on offense. And I after a while, I remember thinking, was he shutting down too? It's one thing for players to shut down, but my coach doesn't look like he's as engaged. And that was problematic to me.
Yeah, I just think he thought for a long time, probably way too long, 5-6 weeks, that it would get better, that they could get better at what they were trying to do. Then you started, playing younger guys. And they did change some things. D-Rob and Tom did some videos that showed that he adjusted some things offensively. But again, man, what answers do you have? How many adjustments can you make when you have a bad offensive lineman? We have a bad offensive line, poor play of quarterback, and subpar wide receivers. I mean, adjust all you want. It was, to Corey's point, it was a bad roster that really fell apart once you couldn't run the ball.
Matt wants to know, hi, gents. This is not an easy question because it depends on how so many different things play out. But just give us a gut feel. It's 2028. Do you feel FSU football is tracking well? Are we at the standard, or are we still just hoping for the best like we've been doing for the last 13 months? 2028, boys.
It's hard to even predict, right? I mean, I think
we're at a crossroads. It's a big year. It's a big couple of seasons coming up here, boys, for this athletic department, for the university, for Mike Norvell and his coaching staff, for the program as a whole, the league, college football. There's a lot to take in here.
I guess the challenge is, again, I'm not trying to cop out, but you could tell me that in 2028, you could tell me today in 2028, Alabama is going to be 4-8,
right?
And hiring, another new coach after they fired Kalen DeBoer 3 years ago, and I would believe it. I think everything is on the table every year. Again, that's why I think, man, these coaching contracts have to get shorter, and we all have to think about this sport completely differently. I just think they could be terrible in 28 and then good in 29.
Look, I think
you know?
it's
I agree with that.
And I think it's like trying to predict what the Chargers will be.
Yeah.
Or what the Seahawks will be. And maybe the Seahawks are better, or even like the Jets.
The Dallas Mavericks.
Because that was crazy. But I could say the Chiefs, and we know the Chiefs will be good in 2028 because they'll have the quarterback. But college football, you don't get to have a quarterback for 15 years. You get them for 2. Maybe. So we have no idea what and obviously it's more than just quarterback, but the reason the Chiefs will be good is because of Patrick Mahomes, and players will want to play with him, and they're good. They're well run. But I don't know if the Seahawks will be any good. Seahawks might be in the Super Bowl in 2028. They might be 3-14. Literally no idea. Falcons too. Penix might be awesome. Penix might not be any good. The Bucks. Mayfield can't play forever. He can't save them forever. They're going to have to go and go draft a quarterback. So that's what college football to me is, except for maybe Ohio State. You don't know from year to year. It's hard to predict in 3 years because it's so ever evolving. It's like an NFL team, but it's free agency every year.
I believe we're entering into the most hectic and up and down era that any of us could have ever imagined. I don't think we could have wrapped our head around this for college football.
It's insanity. It's insanity.
I agree with Ira on this. I think that, man, there's a good chance that you're sitting there 1 year high on the hog, feeling really good about making the playoff, and the next you're like, God, we suck. You know why I believe that? It just happened.
Yeah.
Michigan lost 5 times.
Oh, you were going to go with Michigan. Oh, yeah, because Florida State didn't make the playoff. Florida State should have made the playoff, though. That's what I thought you were
But I'm saying, like, that's how it can happen, man. I mean, it's crazy. We just watched it. Washington stunk last year in football as well. Those two teams played for the title.
Yeah, and if listen, man, Arizona State made the playoff. SMU made the playoff.
Right.
If you told
Indiana.
me that Indiana, if you told me that in 2 years they're going to be terrible, I'd be like, yeah, maybe that's very possible. I mean, we're so used to that sport being more linear that it's not how it is anymore. I don't think. Even with the House settlement and all the changes, I just don't think it's ever going to go back to where you could track a program's rise.
You know what I looked at recently is because Cam Ward, like I think the first 4 quarterbacks that are going to be drafted this year are all transfers. Ward, Shador, he came from Jackson State. Name the other ones. They all have. The Ewers will be drafted at some point, and somebody else. Anyway, they're all portal guys. 8 of the 9 quarterbacks that were drafted last year were portal guys. Like, this is just all the best quarterbacks that are going to the NFL aren't going. So when they lost that quarterback commit a week ago, it's like, who cares? You can go get them in a year or two, but they're all free agents. Go get you a really good one in a year or two, and then they can be an NFL quarterback. That's the way of the world, man. That's just how it works.
For Corey and Ira, I'm Jeff.
Are we done?
Ben. That's it. That's all. We are out of here, boys. Be good. Have a great rest of your day, everybody. Peace.